Hello, my name is Mary Harelkin Bishop, and I am an author. I'm the author of all the books that you see here. The ones I'm most well known for are the Tunnels of Moose Jaw time travel series. And today I am going to talk about a special thing that I did in this book, Next Stop Chicago. Next Stop Chicago, though it doesn't sound like it, is actually the fifth in the Moose Jaw time travel series books. The first one, of course, is Tunnels of Time. The second one is Tunnels of Terror, which is sitting right here, Tunnels of Terror. The third one is Tunnels of Treachery. The fourth one is Tunnels of Tyranny. Lots of T names. And the fifth one is called Next Stop Chicago. In a lot of these books, I use something called foreshadowing. Do you have an idea what foreshadowing is? It's where an author drops little clues throughout the book to help the reader figure something out. It's almost like a little game or a little puzzle. When Next Stop Chicago was published, the publisher and editor gave me a toonie on a necklace. And I actually wear this once in a while. It's a really cool gift, actually. The reason they gave me a toonie on a chain like this is because in this story, a toonie plays a really important part. I actually use that toonie as foreshadowing. So I'm going to read you the first part. I better find the right book because this is the one that's upside down. If you've looked at my other video, you'll know that that actually is a book that has a mistake in it. So I'm going to read to you just the little part that leads up to the toonie. So here we go, from Next Stop Chicago. Andrea and her family are all at a New Year's Day celebration, and people are coming, and they are at their Grandma and Grandpa Talbot's house. There was a murmur of voices, and then an old man stepped into the living room, his cheeks rosy. "It's a cold one out there today," he said, rubbing his hands together to warm them. "Stanley Jenkins," Aunt Bee blurted, flinging out a frail hand bedecked with large shiny rings which slipped around her bony fingers. "How nice to see you." Using a cane for support, Stanley Jenkins moved slowly across the smooth wooden floor. "I wouldn't have missed this for the world." He leaned over to peck the woman's cheek and then turned to Andrea, taking her hand between his gnarled fingers. "Hello, my dear Andrea. How have you been keeping?" Andrea smiled into his gray eyes, which twinkled merrily beneath snow-white eyebrows. His hair, though white, danced upon his head in waves of curl. Andrea always had a soft spot in her heart for old Stanley Jenkins. He was one of her grandfather's dearest friends, a second grandfather to her. Impulsively, Andrea threw her arms around him. "Happy New Year, Mr. Jenkins," she said as she kissed his grizzled cheek. He hugged her in return, sighing deeply. "Oh, if only I were 5 decades or more younger," he teased lightly. Mr. Jenkins grinned. Okay, listen, here's the toonie. Mr. Jenkins grinned, touching a chain he wore around his neck. It was the oldest-looking toonie Andrea had ever seen. Tarnished, it was worn almost beyond recognition, making the words and the date difficult to read. So that is about 4 or 5 pages into the story. A toonie is mentioned. So as a reader, you should say to yourself, I think that toonie might be important. In truth, I don't talk about a toonie for about 100 or more pages well into the story. The second time that toonie is mentioned, Andrea has Tony's backpack, her little brother's backpack. She's turned it upside down. She's shaking it on the bed, and a toonie hops out, rolls off the bed, and rolls around out the door. Andrea is so busy looking for something in the backpack that she doesn't even see who picks up the toonie. But you, as a smart reader, says, there was a toonie at the beginning of the story. Now there's a toonie a second time. So if you think about who had the toonie at the beginning of the story, who picked up the toonie, then you see the toonie a few more times, who has it at the end. If you follow that toonie through the story, you will have figured out a really important part of the story. Authors often use that as a way to keep attention and to make you curious and to add excitement to the story. So I hope that you liked learning about how I used foreshadowing in Next Up Chicago, and I hope that you will pick up the book and finish reading it and find out exactly why this toonie was so important. And come back and visit me again as I put these little videos on and talk more about each book and talk to you about my favorite parts and things I like about writing. Happy reading and see you soon.